Cost of living in Raleigh, North Carolina is way up in 2022. But did you know that Raleigh has become one of the more expensive large cities in the country? In this video, you'll get an idea of the true cost of living in Raleigh, North Carolina. Because I can promise you, there's a whole lot of nonsense out there on the internet. It's not even close to reality. And in this video, I give you the kind of information you really need if you're planning to move here. Hey, I'm Will Wofford, real estate broker with Berkshire Hathaway in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this channel is all about living in Raleigh, Raleigh real estate, and where to live. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And let's jump right into the video. Since I posted my last video on this topic, inflation has spiraled out of control and has driven up the cost of living in Raleigh and the surrounding suburbs. And that has only been exacerbated by people moving to the Triangle area to take advantage of the red-hot economy and job market. And you couple that with a major supply and demand imbalance in our local housing market, fueled with low interest rates and strong buyer demand, and you're left with a much higher cost of living. If you're coming from expensive places like Los Angeles or New York City, most of the locations in Raleigh will probably be much more affordable for you to live in, but for many of you from other areas, that's just not going to be the case. But before we talk about the actual expenses, let's talk about salaries and wages first, because you're going to need to take that into consideration to determine what your wage will be if you're going to move to Raleigh. And for some of you, it may stay the same, but for many of you, it's probably going to be higher or lower. Now, you can get a general idea of the going rate for salaries in the Raleigh metro area via Glassdoor.com, where you just select the job type in the city that you're interested in, and you're going to get a very good idea of what the general rate is for the salary. But I would strongly recommend that you have a job before you decide to move here. And the median salary for Raleigh is currently $59,000, which is just above the national average. So let's dive right into the major expenses, starting with housing. So if you're new to the area or don't know how long you'll probably be here, you might want to consider a rental. And the good news is the Raleigh housing market is comprised of 49% rentals and 51% owner-occupied housing. So you can find single-family homes, townhomes, condos, or apartments to rent. But less than 3% of the market is going to be $1,000 or less. And the median rental price for a 3-bedroom home is $1,920. So if you want to dig in deeper to the cost of housing, it's honestly pretty easy to figure out using Zillow. If you're a single person, couple, or family, just realize the cost of rental properties is increasing at around 13% on a year-over-year basis right now. Now, if you're looking to purchase a home, the median sales price is currently $442,000 compared to $389,000 nationally. So a home in Raleigh is going to be about 13.5% higher on average compared to the national average. And assuming you put 20% down, you'll have a monthly principal and interest payment of $1,954. But you will need to add to that, or you will need to allot to that, money for your escrow account, which will be your monthly allotment for property taxes and property insurance. So I think a good number to start with to figure that amount out is 1.325%. It's not an exact number, but it works for me on average well. So using that number, for example, a $442,000 house, the escrow payment will be around $488 a month. Add that to your principal and interest payment, giving you a combined payment of $2,442 to be an owner versus a renter, assuming that you put down 20%. The next major cost of living in North Carolina is going to be health care. And for health care, I want to point out that this cost is going to vary greatly, and it really depends on several factors to establish if you qualify for subsidized insurance under the Affordable Care Act. So here's the way I would sum up health care. If your median adjusted gross income is $100,000 or above for a household of 3, you probably won't get any subsidy and you're going to pay full price for insurance. If your employer offers insurance that's less than 9.5% of your total gross wages, then your family's not going to qualify for any subsidized insurance. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that the health insurance cost might be a major cost for you in Raleigh, North Carolina if you need to buy insurance and you don't qualify for subsidized insurance. I can tell you I'm a non-smoker in good health, and coverage for me and my daughter, she's 13, using healthcare.gov costs more than $1,000 a month. And my wife has insurance through her employer. So I'm telling you this because it can be a really big cost depending upon your age, household size, employment, and health. And so you really need to investigate the cost of health care before you pack your bags and move here. But looking at several sites online, they list the cost of health care as being much less. But I'm telling you, that's probably not going to be the case. Next, let's talk about transportation. If you move to Raleigh, North Carolina, you're going to need a car. Can you get by without a car? Yes, but it's going to be difficult. And depending upon where you live, it might feel like a prison sentence. Now, if you live in one of the high density areas like downtown Raleigh or North Hills, it's doable. But you won't have the ability to really experience everything that makes Raleigh such a great place to live. So I'm telling you, you need a car. And with a car, your transportation expense will depend on 5 things. The first one is the value of the car you drive and the monthly payment, if there is any. Second, the cost of property and casualty insurance for that car, which on average is $1,392 in North Carolina. But of course, that all depends on your driving record and the value of the car. The cost of gas in North Carolina, which is currently about 7.5% less than the national average. How much you drive the car, the cost of repairs and preventative maintenance, and North Carolina property tax, which is generally going to be about 1 to 1.5% of the total assessed value of the vehicle. So for example, a $15,000 car would be about $184 in taxes per year, and a $30,000 car would be about $334 in tax per year, and so on. Now, we do have public transportation available in Raleigh using the Go Raleigh bus system, as well as services like Uber, but I'm telling you, it's going to take a long time to get where you want to go, and over the longer term, I think you'll find it's impractical if you have the ability to get a car. Now let's talk about food. The cost of food in Raleigh is really going to depend on your eating habits. I will say, if you're trying to keep yourself on a tight budget, the price for food in the grocery stores is going up just as fast as everything else. So it's hard to say what the average cost is going to be for someone in Raleigh, because that really depends largely on you. Do you go to Starbucks every day, or do you make your own coffee? Do you order sushi for lunch? Do you make a sandwich, or do you go for Chick-fil-A? There's a lot of statistical information out there for food costs, but I would say $500 per month for a single person is reasonable, and around $1,350 for a family of 4 if you want to make a budget. Now this next one is another big one, and that's daycare and education. Now I'm combining the two because if you're a single parent or a couple and you both work and have a young child or young children, you probably need to consider the cost of daycare. And the average cost of daycare per child is $1,150 a month. Now, as your kids get older, you might not be satisfied with the public school that is assigned as your base school. And I'm telling you, it's difficult to get reassigned in the Wake County public school system. So you might have to consider private school. If you elect for private school, your costs could range from $3,500 to $20,000+ per year per child. So my advice to you would be to research public schools carefully and consider the base schools that are assigned to the property you want to purchase. Now, depending upon how many kids you have, the cost of the property might in reality be very cheap when you add in the cost of going to private school. Utilities is another expense to consider and includes electricity, gas, water, sewer, internet, and cell phone. And of course, this figure is going to vary considerably depending upon the size of your house or the usage, but the average cost for utilities in Raleigh is $386. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're looking to purchase a home here in the Raleigh area, I'd love to help you find your next home. So please feel free to reach out via phone call, text, or email to discuss, and I'll see you on the next one.